TMZ is now reporting that Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death, which was initially called accidental drowning, was due to a high current in the ocean while on a family vacation. Initially, TMZ simply reported that they had an unconfirmed but reliable source saying that he simply died of accidental drowning, no other detail. Right off the bat, the internet seemed very perplexed about how does an accidental drowning occur. I immediately thought of Matthew Perry and Whitney Houston. They had the same cause of death, so we know where that came from. But in this case, it seems like there's no foul play, no drugs, no illicit behavior, nothing, no smoking that you can really point to other than a powerful current in the ocean while you were swimming with your family on vacation, which is like maybe the most tragic circumstances of all.
Right from the jump, the internet was in complete shock. People were asking the same question over and over again. How does an accidental drowning even happen, especially to someone like Malcolm-Jamal Warner? This wasn't some unknown person lost at sea. This was Theo from The Cosby Show, a face we grew up with, someone who was more than just a character on TV. He was family to so many, and now he was just gone, just like that. People couldn't believe it. Comparisons started immediately. Matthew Perry, Whitney Houston, the same eerie cause of death, drowning. And while those cases had layers of controversy and speculation, something about Malcolm's case felt off in its own strange way. There were no whispers of drugs, no erratic behavior, no suspicious company, just a vacation, just a father and his daughter, just a beach in Costa Rica. And yet, now we're talking about funeral arrangements. The internet couldn't process it. Not Malcolm, not Theo, not the man who represented a generation of black excellence on television. The news hit hard, and the collective grief was heavy. Fans imagined the heartbreak that must be rippling through his family, people already bracing themselves to hear Felicia Rashad speak at his memorial, saying goodbye to her TV son. And then came Eddie Griffin, dropping bombs no one saw coming, because according to him, that accidental drowning might not have been so accidental after all. Eddie hinted that there were darker forces at play, that Malcolm's death may have been planned, that something, or someone, had been gunning for him long before he ever set foot in Costa Rica. And as if that wasn't enough, Eddie said something that made the internet stop breathing. The plan may have included Malcolm's daughter. Yes, you heard that right. The word on the street is that whoever wanted Malcolm gone also wanted to wipe out his child. But Malcolm managed to save her, gave his own life to protect hers. And that alone made people pause. Because now this wasn't just a freak accident. It was starting to feel like a plot, a takedown, a setup. And let's be real, this wouldn't be the first time Hollywood buried someone who tried to speak out. Malcolm wasn't just vacationing. He had been speaking up. He had started pulling the curtain back on the entertainment industry. And everyone who's paid attention knows what that means. You speak up, you vanish. You go against the grain, you disappear. Angie Stone was exposing the game, gone. Cat Williams spoke out. House got broken into. Ellie Carter, same thing. Jaguar Wright, she was dragged to jail not once but twice. Every single one of them tried to lift the veil, and every single one of them paid for it. So when Malcolm starts talking about industry pressure, about selling your soul for roles, about turning down millions to stay true to himself, suddenly he's dead? It's no wonder people aren't buying the official story. This wasn't just any celebrity. This was someone who'd survived decades in the industry with his integrity intact. And now he's gone, just like that. The Buzz Loop looked into it deeper, and the timeline gets darker the more you dig. Before the trip, Malcolm had done an interview where he opened up in a way we rarely see. He talked about the roles he was offered, roles that would have compromised everything he stood for. He said point blank that he had to walk away from some very lucrative offers because what they were asking from him felt like soul selling. He never said exactly what, but you could feel the weight behind his words. He wasn't just talking about wearing a silly costume or playing a dumb character. He was talking about doing things that would have made him ashamed to look in the mirror. And it wasn't just about money. It was about legacy, integrity, what he'd leave behind for his daughter. He credited his mother for teaching him the concept of longevity in the industry. Not just being hot for a moment, but being proud of your work over decades. He said she taught him to make smart choices when the offers dried up, to never act out of desperation. And because of that, Malcolm said he never had to take a role that made him cringe later. His body of work reflected dignity, pride, and that kind of stand doesn't go unnoticed, especially by the very people who want you to conform. The official reports say Malcolm drowned while swimming with his daughter. A surfer helped save the child. A volunteer lifeguard pulled Malcolm out. CPR ER for 45 minutes, pronounced dead. The forensic pathology department ruled it accidental. Asphyxiation by submersion. And that's where TMZ stepped in with their headline. Accidental drowning, period. No further explanation, just vibes. But the public wasn't convinced, because how convenient is it that someone who was on the verge of exposing something bigger just happens to die in the most freak accident imaginable? Gets even wilder when you realize that a spiritual analyst on Instagram had literally predicted days before his death that someone from the Cosby Show would go on vacation and never return. People laughed her off when she said it, but when Malcolm's death hit the headlines, they went back to her page, and suddenly nobody was laughing anymore. That eerie accuracy chilled people to the bone. Was she just incredibly intuitive, or had something been set in motion long before we knew it? Then there's the alleged abuse, the rumors, the whispers. Malcolm was on the Cosby Show at just 14 years old, and we all know how that story ends with Cosby. Accusations, convictions, darkness. And now there are reports surfacing that Malcolm himself may have experienced things on that set. Things he was preparing to go public about. Allegedly, he was planning to talk, to name names, to shed light on what really went down behind the scenes. And now he's gone. Fans say the signs were there, that in interviews you could see it in his eyes. Like he knew his time was coming. Like he was walking with a target on his back. His honesty made him a liability. He wasn't playing by Hollywood's rules anymore. He was out of pocket and out of time. Raven-Symoné was one of the first to be approached by TMZ. They caught her outside, and the moment they brought up Malcolm, she broke down. Couldn't even talk. That kind of reaction doesn't come from just sadness. That comes from shock, from pain, from knowing something the rest of the world doesn't. Raven and Malcolm worked together. She would have seen the things he endured firsthand. Her silence spoke louder than words. And then TMZ dropped exclusive footage of Malcolm arriving in Costa Rica. He looked happy, relaxed, like a man ready to unplug and spend quality time with his child. That wasn't a man on the edge. That was a man planning to return home. But apparently, Hollywood had other plans, and coming home wasn't one of them. Now, here's where things get real conspiratorial and real creepy. People started analyzing the numbers. Malcolm died at age 54. 5 plus 4 is equal to 9. If you're into numerology, you know 9 is the number of completion. But here's where it gets strange. The Cosby Show, the show that made him famous when run through the system of gematria, which matches letters to numbers, equals 54, same as his age when he died. The day he died, July 20th. The 201st day of the year. Cosby Show ran for 8 seasons. 8 times 25.125 is equal to 201 episodes. Another 201. Conspiracy theorists immediately connected this to Event 201, a controversial pandemic simulation that happened in 2019. Are all these 201s just random, or are they pointing to something deeper? It doesn't stop there. People even brought Ozzy Osbourne into the conversation. He died around the same time. His final concert, called Back to the Beginning. What kind of name is that? Attendance, 45,000. 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. His full name in gematria, 2011. At what point do these numbers stop being coincidence and start becoming pattern? And what about Eddie Griffin? Let's talk about him for a second. He worked with Malcolm on Malcolm and Eddie for years. And if you know anything about that show, you know things were rough behind the scenes. They didn't get along. Malcolm hated Eddie's lateness. Eddie was constantly clashing with people. And Malcolm, he fought with the writers. He fought to keep things authentic, to keep his character respectful. But they had a goal, 100 episodes. That magic number meant syndication, financial freedom. Even though they couldn't stand each other, they were determined to push through. But guess what? The show got cut at 88, just 12 short of the mark. Producers were fed up with Eddie's chaos, with Malcolm's resistance. It was too much, and that tension stayed with them. But somehow years later they mended things, became brothers. Eddie posted a tribute after Malcolm died, and it hit hard. He called him a poet, a warrior, a man who fought the Hollywood machine. And let's be clear, when someone in the industry says the Hollywood machine, they're not just talking about studios. They're talking about the system, the agendas, the gatekeepers, people who decide who eats and who starves, who shines and who disappears. Eddie believes something happened. He hasn't said it outright, probably because saying it puts a target on your own back. But his silence is loud, too loud to ignore. So now we ask you, what do you believe? Was Malcolm's death just an unfortunate vacation tragedy, or was it something more? Was he silenced before he could blow the lid off the industry industry that raised him? Or are we all just reading too deep into things that don't add up? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to dive deeper into Hollywood's darkest secrets, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned right here on the Buzz Loop, where the truth always finds the light.